Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, Friday edition TGIF. And thank God it's no longer Thursday for the SEC. I am Marsh, joined by Rick Blaze. Good morning, Rick. How are you?
It's Friday. It's early. Somebody's daughter kept me up too late. Let's get to it.
Going PG-13 on this one. Well, a big night in the
We're
SEC where
studying.
we'll start, where the poor run for recent top 10 teams continued last night. But even worse so, the SEC is back to being wide open. Losses by both South Carolina and Arkansas has flipped the switch and opened up the door. Rick, Kentucky suddenly back on the menu, and South Carolina unable, and despite the loss, now mathematically in first place in the SEC because of the one more game played than Alabama, but the door back open for the Wildcats in the SEC.
Yep. I mean, it happened the way I figured it would. Last time I was on the show, I said Kentucky's going to come out desperate. I expect them to win, and they took care of business. South Carolina losing was a bonus. But yeah, I mean, Kentucky Wildcats is one of those teams. When it comes to down to the Hoopsteria, this is one of those teams that I trust. Why? Because they're battle tested. They've won big games. They've lost tough games, both home and a road. And so you want to get that out the way now. And so now I can see Kentucky going on a serious run. And the rest of the SEC, who had it locked up just a week ago, seemingly, are now in danger of letting the Wildcats come back and storm the castle and take over the SEC, which is not good news for all other parties and members involved.
I was not surprised to see South Carolina lose last night to Texas A&M. South Carolina, we had talked about it, had really been a 500 basketball team. They'd been fringe top 25. They're number 20. I don't know that loss necessarily removes them from the top 25. I still do think they're a top 25 team, but they haven't been a consistent basketball team. And the expectation would have been, from my viewpoint, South Carolina is eventually going to kind of do what they've done all season, be that up and down, not necessarily a fantastic basketball team. And last night that was the case. Texas A&M, who's had a good season, they're 11-10 overall, 2-2 now in conference play. 3-2, beg your pardon. They're still in the running. They're still a team that can make a push for the SEC title game. Kentucky, though, this was a chance for Arkansas because Arkansas has just not been battle tested. They're 14-6. They're number 6 in the country. I think they're obviously going to fall. Kentucky's obviously going to move up. This was a chance for Arkansas to make a statement. Make a statement to say we are deservedly among the elite in college basketball. It's not just because we've had a soft schedule. That didn't happen last night, and they get their first massive test, and they didn't necessarily pass it. And I think, yes, we can talk about Kentucky kind of righting the ship. I'm not surprised at all that they were able to do that after losing 2 in a row. But for Arkansas, this was a chance to really, one, put Kentucky down for the count. Right, you had a huge opportunity to take maybe the best team in the SEC onto the back burner and say they're not going to matter for the rest of the season if we can hand them a third conference loss. Not only that, but also put yourself in the driver's seat for the SEC. Neither of those things are now true, and the road back for Arkansas is incredibly challenging in a conference that has, again, 5 ranked teams, 4 of them in the top 12, and 2 other teams that are competitive and have been top 25 teams at some points this season in Florida and Texas A&M. The road of the SEC, this isn't an opinion, this is just a fascination. The SEC will be exciting to watch the rest of the way just because of how many good basketball teams, and after last night, the door getting cracked wide open once again. All right, let's talk Hoopsteria. And there was some rumors. I struggled to believe these are rumors from high up in the SimWorld U League office, but apparently some in the league office are pushing for a potential change to Hoopsteria, moving away from the 64-team field and instead going to a 16-team, 2 out of 3 every single round matchup. No more one-and-dones. Make the best team, I guess would be the opinion, move on with more chances of less drama, I guess we could call it. Rick, your opinion on what this potential tournament would be?
I don't like it personally. The most popular, the most watched playoffs in all of sports for several reasons. But one of the major reasons for the SWSFL is because of the playoff format. You get a win, you get the win, you move on. Like you don't have to be the best team in the world. You just need to be the best team at that night, and you just need to get hot at the right time. Now, I do think maybe 64 teams is too much. So maybe we cut the number down from 64, say maybe half, maybe 32, maybe a little bit more than half, 40 or something like that.
Whoa, Rick.
Um,
Okay.
so we can cut the number down. I don't think 64, you don't need all 64, but let's cut it. Let's make the number a little bit smaller and let's keep it one and done. I like the excitement, the excitement of a number 12 seed coming up and beating the number 1 seed. I like the Cinderella teams going on a run. I like the chance to see that maybe, just maybe, my school, who barely snuck in, can get hot at the right time and do some damage and maybe make it to the quad or better. So I want the element of surprise there. So let's keep it one and done, but we can cut the teams down. We don't need 64 of them.
Well, bold take to say you like the 12 seed making a run when in a 32 team format, that 12 seed would very unlikely even get the invite to hoops, or the 32 team tournament would very unlikely get the chance to have such a run. But I don't think we need to change anything. I think Hoopsteria has been a massive success. I think the challenge with Hoopsteria is that very often you might not get the best team to win, right? Because you do have the one game where the 12 seed can get hot from deep, and a Texas A&M can take down a South Carolina. Not saying South Carolina is the best team, but you see a Duke losing, right, to Florida State. That happens every single year. Very rarely, except last year, we just had the most chalkiest of chalk Hoopsterias. Last season being the anomaly, typically we get the best team, statistically, best team sometimes knocked out. But I don't think that means we need to guarantee they arrive at the next level. I think college football has maybe overdone the number of teams that they let in, and I think college basketball, keep it how it is. That's the joy of college basketball, is that you don't have to go to Duke, Kentucky, insert Villanova, Alabama, whatever your top teams are in your opinion. You don't have to go to the blue blood to get an invitation to go play on a national stage. You get a chance because your team is good enough. You play in a tough conference. Maybe you win the conference. Maybe you have a good run. In this case, we're going to get 64 very deserving teams. Maybe let's call the 32 of them are very deserving. But you know what? Those last 32 shouldn't be excluded from the dance just because they got a wart or two on their nose. Let them in, let them have a good time, and if they make a run, it becomes this historical moment in a school's history. You look at a George Mason, you look at a Valparaiso, you look at all these upsets, a UMBC who becomes the first 16 seed to take down a number 1. You don't get those when you only invite 16 teams or when you only invite 32. Let them all in. Nothing's been wrong with the way they've gone. Certainly no need to change. There's something that is just simply not broken. All right, let's head to SWBA, where the league is back rolling as of last night, but the San Antonio Spurs very well may not be, as they announced yesterday that Victor Wembanyama will be sidelined for the rest of the regular season with a blood clot in his shoulder. The team is projecting confidence that he will make a full recovery, that this will not be a long-term issue. But it's certainly a disappointing one, Rick, in the term of Victor Wembanyama might be the most exciting player to watch play basketball right now in the association.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I said the most exciting. He's definitely the most intriguing because of his size, and he's like watching a cartoon play in real life, because you don't know what that 7'5" frame is going to do on the nightly basis. But my heart really goes out to the places like New Brunswick, Texas, those smaller towns who get San Antonio Spurs games, and all they got to do out there is make babies and watch the Spurs. And so now that the best player is hurt, they back to just making babies and not watching the Spurs. So I feel my heart goes out to those guys in New Braunfels and the surrounding area who have nothing else better to do but watch their San Antonio Spurs. There's no other team that they get on their TV, and so unfortunately for them, they just go back to playing football with the paper mache football and making babies.
Well, speaking from a basketball standpoint, since that's typically what this show tries to talk about, this is a loss for the league because Victor Wembanyama may not be the most exciting player, but I would argue he is, but he makes a game worth watching because his ability to impact basketball across every single part of the game. Defensively, I think he's the most entertaining basketball player to watch. Just because you see the fear that is instilled in people's eyes when they go into the paint, and Victor Wembanyama is just standing. I mean, it's not like he has to rotate over much more than one step. But it's also disappointing because this was going to be a push for the postseason. And this was a team that was trying to make a run. That's why they went out and got De'Aaron Fox now. They weren't trying to make a run for a championship, but they were certainly trying to play meaningful basketball down the stretch run of the season. I am not very concerned about the long-term health. This is very similar to the blood clot that Brandon Ingram had 6 years ago. It is not similar in any way to the blood clot that ended the career of Chris Bosh. So we certainly would not want this to be, if this was something a little more dangerous, then we can have a much deeper conversation in terms of, well, what's the future of Victor Wembanyama look like in the league? Because he is the future of the face. Even Anthony Edwards mentioned he is the face of the league in the future. And his impact on the floor is probably not all that grand this season because this is a team that's not going to make a run. But the fact that we're not going to see Victor Wembanyama the rest of the year is incredibly disappointing. You know, regardless of where you live in Texas or elsewhere, his appeal is global. His appeal is global. He himself carries himself in such a way that is just entertaining and exciting to be viewing. And it's a loss. It's a loss for the league as a whole to not be able to see him. And it's a very disappointing end for a San Antonio Spurs season. Chris Paul, you go to San Antonio to try to make a push for a playoffs. He's had a great year in what year? His age 38 season, I think he is. That's a tough loss when you tie your ship to Victor Wembanyama, and that ship sinks out with 30 games left in the regular season. It certainly is not something that's all that exciting. Certainly not something that's very positive, Rick.
Yeah, I mean, the league it is a hit for the league. I mean, I can see why people can say Victor Wembanyama is the next global star. You say that when a player is drafted as high as he is, and the player is from another country and has talent. I mean, dollar bills, y'all. Let's dollar bills. Very talented young man. So the league does miss out on having. He's part of them selling their packages. They're buying the packages for the season till you get to see Victor Wembanyama, right? So unfortunate for him and for the organization, but we wish the young man a speedy recovery, and we tell all our friends in New Braunfels, be safe.
The other disappointing part of it, you talk about dollar bills, is the fact that I don't know how many games left the San Antonio Spurs have on national television, but I'll tell you what, it's certainly something that they need to figure out how to flex them out of, because now the Spurs just simply are not worth watching if you got to throw them up on TNT or ESPN to tune in. I'm trying to look through.
Do they have flex?
They flex to make mountains move to get Luka Doncic's game, but I'm just looking at their schedule right now. They've got an ESPN matchup against the Houston Rockets next Wednesday. That's not really worth watching now. They got a home game against the Oklahoma City Thunder on ESPN. Should have been a Chet versus Wemby. It's not worth watching anymore. Just going through, those are the two ones that are immediately. But that's it. You need to have that NBA TV matchup in March against the 76ers. That's not worth watching anymore. Matchup with the Celtics. I mean, it's just the Spurs. No apology to De'Aaron Fox and Chris Paul. Great basketball players. They're not worth watching in the same way that Victor Wembanyama made them worth watching. And that's what this team is dealing with. All right, that's our show. We're coming back on Monday with a chock-full weekend ahead of basketball. Reminder that the SimWorld Prep Tournament's rolling on starting today. We've got some Friday hoops, Beasts of the East and SimWorld Oceania, Lakeshore Drive, and Bay Area Breakers in the Layup Invitational. That continues into Saturday with plenty of games on the Layup Invitational as well. Queen City Kings and the North tip things off at 1 p.m. Eastern. Triple header on Saturday, double header on Sunday, and the championship game coming Monday night. So bunch of SimWorld prep here on the horizon this weekend, which is obviously very, very exciting. That's it. That's all we got for you this week. We're coming back on Monday, Rick. We will see you then. Appreciate you all for tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.
Good day, New Brunswick.
This has been a presentation of SimWorld Sports.